this video, I'm going to go over notarial acts and notarial fees and how they affect the amount of taxes that you will owe. When you're a notary, you're considered a self-employed person. When you're self-employed, you have to pay something called self-employment tax, which is in addition to the normal federal income tax that you have to pay, and then also in addition to the state income tax you have to pay, assuming you live in a state that has state income tax, which most states do. So the self-employment tax, the whole concept behind it is it's supposed to replace the amount of Social Security and Medicare tax that you typically have taken out of your check. And what most people don't know is that when you're an employee of a company and you get a check, when you get your paycheck, you probably notice that you get Social Security and Medicare tax taken out to the tune of about 7.65%. Well, your employer actually also matches that amount too, which brings it to a total of 15.3%. So when you are a self-employed person, the IRS says, well, you should be contributing to your Social Security and Medicare, so they tax you with something called the self-employment tax. So the little known benefit to being a notary that a lot of people, especially new notaries, don't know, and many even seasoned notaries don't know about, is that income generated from doing notarial acts is actually not subject to self-employment tax. So it's really, really important that you're tracking this stuff as a new notary because it can literally save you thousands of dollars in taxes. So to explain how the concept works, I'm going to use an example. I'm going to show you the difference between doing a signing and not tracking your notarial acts versus when you do track your notarial acts. So let's say that we do a signing for $100. Well, our self-employment tax rate at 15.3% means that we're going to owe self-employment tax at the end of the year of $15.30 on that signing. And don't forget, this is in addition to your federal income tax and your state income tax. Now, let's look at the same signing, and let's say that we do track our notarial acts. So that same signing, $100. And now let's say that the maximum amount that we're allowed to charge per notarial act in our state is $10. Now, every state's a little bit different. Some are really high. California, I think, is the highest, which is around $15 or $20 per notarial act. It's going to differ for each state, though. But let's say, for this example, in the state that I'm in, it was $10 per notarial act. Now, let's say that during that signing, I performed 6 notarial acts, which means that my total notarial fees are $60. So that means that $60 of that $100 that I was paid for the signing are not subject to self-employment tax, which means the remaining portion, the $40 that's left, is the portion that is still subject to self-employment tax. So at 15.3%, that means that we still have to pay self-employment tax of that on that particular signing of $6. But the difference is instead of paying $15, you're only paying $6, which means you get essentially a tax savings of $9. Now, obviously, this can add up to a lot of money at the end of the year, depending on how much notary work you're doing. So taking the same example, let me show you a chart of what the savings could potentially look like. As you can see, the savings add up really fast. So let's say, for example, using the same numbers we did from the example I just showed you, if you did 5 signings per month, you could have a tax savings of $550. If you did 10 signings per month, it could be as much as $1,000 or $1,100. 20 signings, $2,200, and so on and so forth. Now, don't forget, if you're in a state like California or any other state that has a very high, amount that you're allowed to charge per notarial act, these savings are going to go way up. And also, as many of you are doing loan signings, you'll find out in many loan signings, you might do 10, 12, 13, 14 notarial acts, and that means that your savings are going to add up to be even more. So, once again, it just kind of depends on how much you're doing in terms of notary work and then how much you're allowed to charge per notarial act. But the bottom line is you should absolutely be tracking this because it is going to save you a ton of money on your taxes. So I'm going to switch over to Notary Gadget real quick and show you where this is reported at. So the first thing is you're going to want to go into Reports, Profit and Loss Report, and it even says use this for your taxes, which means anytime that you need to provide financials for taxes, this is the report that you need to use. And in here, it is going to show you the portion of your net income that is from notary public fees, because this is how it's reported on the forms that you file to the IRS at the end of your tax year. And on a side note too, I highly, highly recommend that you use an accountant, an actual accountant, not, nothing against the tax, the preparers, as the famous name brand ones or whatever, but I'm a big proponent of finding a good CPA and letting them do your taxes. Even if they do cost a little bit more, the advice that they can give you is worth their weight in gold when you find a good one. So strongly advise for you guys to do that. But even some accountants might not know about the notary public fees, which is why we put this on the profit and loss report here, that, you know, it even shows you the IRS publication and whatnot to refer to. But it's really important that this obviously gets reported on your taxes, because this is how much money in this particular example here that, you know, that I would have saved here doing, you know, tracking my notarial acts. Now, let me jump back real quick and make sure you understand where you need to enter in those notarial acts. So if I go to the signings page, once you enter in a signing, you're going to have this little stamper icon. This is where you go to enter in your notarial acts. So you just simply click on the stamper icon, you enter in the number of notarial acts that you performed during that signing. So let's say in this one I performed 12, and, you know, my amount per act here was $10. You hit save and it automatically records that. Now, let me talk about this for example too, because a lot of people will get confused here. Well, here, if you'll notice, my notarial fees were $120, but I was only paid $100 for the signing. In that particular case, Notary Gadget will automatically cap the amount of notarial acts at whatever the amount of income you received is, because you can't say that, you know, you can't use those notarial fees towards a different signing. It's only allows you to save the self-employment tax for that particular job that you did. So the software will automatically calculate all of that stuff for you. And once again, it's going to be on the profit and loss report, which is where all of that's going to get reported. And always be sure to click the P&L report explained. It'll go through all the details on how it's calculated and some of the common questions that people have. And then obviously the what's this, which is going to basically explain the same thing that I've done in this video. So hopefully that helps you out.